Singing is the lowest form of communication.
Maria Callas said to sing is an expression of your being. Edith Piaf said singing was a way of escaping. And yes, Homer, the other Homer, said it was the lowest form of communication. What do you think? Why do we sing? Where does the voice come from? My name is Karen Myatt, and I pose these questions and more to some of the greatest singers of our time. Welcome to La Voce Vita. I am very excited to introduce today's guest. She is a vocalist, a vocal instructor, a producer, composer, and a contemporary music specialist. She has sung over 240 world premieres and has appeared on stages all across the globe, from Beijing to Johannesburg. She's received awards from the Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia and the Creative Nova Scotia Leadership Council. She's the artistic director of Vocalips Productions, and most importantly, she is my voice teacher for over 20 years. I'm so honored to welcome Janice Isabel Jackson.
Thanks, Karen.
It is really a really special episode because, in my opinion, you are the #1 voice expert, and this podcast is all about the voice. But let's start with you. Where are you originally from, and how did you get started in music?
It's funny you should ask that. Somebody else asked me that today. I am originally from Cape Breton Island, and I left when I was 18, and I went to Mount Allison University for 1 year. And then I went across the country to live with an aunt, and I auditioned for the music program at the University of Victoria. Luckily, I had a teacher who understood oddness because I'm odd. And in my first year, the composition department was looking for a singer to sing in this quintet by Stephen Parkinson. I think that was his name. And everyone was playing the note of D and in different registers with different vibrati. And I mean, I was just, wow, this is the best thing ever. And so that started my journey with contemporary music. I started working with the composers more. I was singing contemporary pieces. I learned a very, very difficult 10-minute solo called Sequenza 3 for a solo voiced by a composer called Luciano Berio. It took me 6 months to learn it, working on it practically every day. It was chock full of extended vocal techniques. And then I was completely hooked. You know, I could have had a teacher that was more opera oriented and wanted to just slot me into the classical, rubric. But that I'm glad, because he understood that I was a little bit different than the other singers in that regard.
Maybe it would be helpful to explain exactly what contemporary music is, because a lot of people might think, well, isn't all current music contemporary? But what is that genre for you?
Contemporary music is pop. You could call pop contemporary. In the classical realm, contemporary music, or what we call new music, or sometimes new classical music or new contemporary music, is music of living composers. And I went to University of Victoria and sang a lot of works by student composers and famous living composers, not infamous, but famous. And then I moved to Europe. I moved to Holland, and I continued to work with composers and sing contemporary music. And often, I think a little less in North America, but in Holland and in Europe in general, a lot of the singing that we were asked to do had what we call extended vocal techniques. Extended vocal techniques are techniques that you wouldn't hear in a classical opera, for example. They're vocal sounds that we make outside of bel canto or beautiful singing of the Italians. So there's something called vocal fry, which is this kind of sound where you can actually make several tones at once. A lot of the music that I've sung has extended vocal techniques and a lot doesn't. So I've done both. And I've also kind of crossed genres. So I've done some court viol, some musical theater, some jazz. But more than anything, what I like to do is pick music that has a dramatic component to it.
I don't think I've ever asked you this before, but who were some of your earliest musical influences? Like when you were a kid, who were you listening to? Were there any singers that you felt like, oh, I'd love to sing like that?
You're gonna laugh.
Yeah.
Barbra Streisand and Olivia Newton-John and Janice Ian.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I could sing any Barbra Streisand. You name the Barbra Streisand song, I probably have it memorized because I think I adore her.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Barbra Streisand didn't have singing lessons.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, what I read one time is that she had one singing lesson, didn't agree with the teacher, and never went back. You know, she could just sing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I liked her because there was so much feeling in her singing. You know, it wasn't just a great voice, but she meant every word, and that really was very attractive to me.
It is all feeling when it comes to Barbra Streisand. A lot of people who never had lessons but just had a great voice, you know, it just comes from that place that is that authentic voice. I think you said to me once, you know, we talk about hands off the voice, and that whole concept, but I often remember when you said when a baby cries, you know, it can cry and cry and cry for hours and never lose its voice and never go hoarse because it's just that natural instinct of using the breath to create sound.
If you watch a baby, their whole body is crying. They're crying with everything. Not only not only will you see the stomach quiver, but the whole body almost, right? So and great singers, that's what we do. We use our whole body.
A quote you introduced me to actually, that I had on my wall for a long time was a Judy Garland quote: always be a first-rate version of yourself, not a second-rate version of somebody else. Because when I was starting out, and I'm still guilty of it now, I was a major mimic. And I wonder if you ever found that there was a time where you were imitating.
No.
I knew that answer. I don't know why I even asked.
It never crossed my mind ever. Even when I sang in my high school graduation with the band, and it never crossed my mind to imitate I don't even remember what I was singing. Someone said I sounded like Barbra Streisand, but it wasn't a Barbra Streisand song, which makes sense. I mean, I've listened to her a lot, but I never thought about her. But I just sang from me. It never crossed my mind to imitate. The only thing that I will say is that there are times if I don't understand a style that I might listen to someone or listen to several people to try to get a handle on what the style of the music is. But then I will just take it away and do my own thing with it.
There was never a time where you were searching for your own sound. Like, how did you find your own voice? Was it just always something you were connected to?
I just sang.
Yeah.
I never looked for anything. I took a breath and sang. Yeah. Maybe it's the stubbornness in me, but I'm also, well, maybe life imitates art or art imitates life, because I'm also a quirky person in that I don't do things because everybody's told to do X, Y, Z. I do things from my own internal voice.
Why do you sing? Why did you want to sing?
Wow, you're getting profound now.
Yeah.
I wanted to sing because that was the place that I could be in and be completely myself in. Singing is a safe space for me. So, and maybe that's why I sing without thinking about other singers, because I mean, every family and every culture has a different way of dealing with emotions. And mine was not a really very emotional home or family. And I'm a very emotional person. So when I sang, I could take all those feelings and use them in my with my voice on stage or in practice, and no one was going to stand up and say, no, you can't feel that.
Mm.
I would say intuitively, probably, when I was younger, I sang because of that,
Right.
because of being my bubble,
Yeah.
safe space.
Where does your voice come from? So a lot of people say, and you kind of touched on this, it's a generational or cultural instinct, or maybe you feel like you are a messenger of some other artistic expression that's coming from a higher power or other source, or is it a spiritual experience for you? Where do you feel that your voice comes from?
Well, two places, obviously, good technique. I mean, the vocal cords working well, and having a shape in my body that is creating a certain sound, or many sounds. I should say that, because especially when you're singing the music I sing, you have to sometimes, you know, if you're singing a younger person, you lighten the voice up, and maybe you want to sing meatier if it calls for that. So physically, the voice is coming because my body is shaped in a certain way, which allows me freedom to choose the voice I need at the time. That's number one. And number two, if we think of the voice as being a generator of feeling, I go into imagery and use not only imagery, I go into another place in my brain when I sing. So I go into the place that is not rational. And I will create imagery. I will use touch, taste, hearing, sight, all my senses to sing what I'm singing in a way where it generates itself. So I don't believe that phrasing comes from a logic place. I think phrasing is coming when you know exactly what you're singing about, and you have a movie in your head, and the phrasing comes because of the meaning. So for me, meaning and being connected, even if it's an abstract piece, being connected to a part of myself which is not logical is really important. It's also maybe the place in us that has all the answers. So should I go left today, or should I go right? Or should I speak to this person, and how should I speak to them? And should I avoid that person? And how does my cat feel today? Oh, I can see that she's feeling really good. Okay, that makes me feel good. So it's that place inside us that doesn't even use language.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that place has never failed me. And I'm sure that if you spoke with Barbra Streisand, she'd probably have a similar way of talking about that, because I saw an interview with her when she sang Yentl, and she sang the long note at the end when she's on the ship. And she said, they asked, why did you sing the note so long? And she said, because I wanted to.
Pretty simple.
So yeah, I think there's that little voice inside us, and that place in our brain where we can go that isn't logical, that doesn't use language, is incredibly powerful with making music. Because you can use all the words you want to describe what you want to do, but ultimately all of that is a bit artificial, and the other part is connected to the universe. It's what makes us, it's why when I teach, for instance, sometimes I know things about students that I didn't know I knew, because I'm getting, I'm teaching them, and messages are coming in, and I'm going with the messages. And it's that place, I would say. And maybe you could call that ESP, I don't know. But for me, making music, once I know the notes and once my voice is sorted out in the music, that piece starts to open up. And I follow that. The thing is, it takes a certain amount of confidence and trust to believe that part, that I'm good enough, that the messages that I receive when I perform or when I work on something are good enough. And I was lucky enough with Bernard Turgeon in Victoria, who was a brilliant singer, but singer-actor. He helped me trust that part of myself. And by the way, if I don't have that, I don't sing as well. It's like that part is a motor for my voice as well. It's really interesting, actually.
You've originated so many new pieces of music and so many roles, and a lot of them, as we talked about, are pretty unconventional, both on paper and on their feet. How do you prepare for a new piece of music? What is your creative process like when you're developing that?
First, I'll look at the piece to make sure that everything's singable, because sometimes, you work with, I sang this piece once and the last 5 pages were incredibly virtuosic, like they were written for the flute. And I sent it back to the composer, I think 3 times, and said, no, I can't do that. That's not going to work. And he got it. And finally, it actually ended up being a really great piece. And the virtuosity that was there, I was capable of. So luckily, if you work with the composer, then you have the right, and not even the right, even further than that, you have the responsibility to do something like that so that the piece actually works for you. Often when I get a really difficult piece, I will do something really mundane, like think about, okay, I've got 2 months to learn this. I've got 8 weeks. There are so many pages. How many pages do I need to do a day to, let's say, in 3 weeks have it learned? And then how many pages do I need to do a day to have it memorized? Let's say I want to memorize 2 weeks out. So I'll sort of chart that. And then once I've done that, I never look at the whole piece again, because I found in the past that when I was looking at the whole piece, I would have nightmares about, oh my God, I can't learn this 20-page difficult piece. And then I follow the path. I follow that plan. In fact, I was doing a piece in this festival in Toronto of Italian contemporary music, contemporary classical music, and it was 80 pieces of quarter tones, 80 pages, sorry. And I just freaked out, and I said, "What? You can't send me this piece last minute and expect me to learn it. Oh, how do I do this?" Anyway, I cooled my jets, and I decided I'm going to learn so many pages a day, and I did it. And I actually did quite a good job on it, because I listened to the person that this composer wrote it for, and she wasn't getting half of the notes, and I thought, oh, I can do that. So once I learn the notes, obviously, so that would, let's say that 3-week mark, I'll really start working on, as I learn the notes. Let's say I learn 3 pages, and the next day I learn the next 3 pages. I'll go back, and those 3 pages I'll start working into my voice. And often my teacher in Amsterdam talked about using ya on every note without your jaw. Ya, 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 ya. And singing the piece with ya fast. And the reason for that is that ya is articulate, the tongue's articulating, but ah is a great shape for my voice, I would say. So I would do that enough. So in the back of my mouth, I felt the shape of ya. And then I would slow the piece down, use the words, but keep the shape in the back of my mouth the same. So that even when I was singing other vowels are the responsibility of the tongue and are more in the front of the mouth, I would keep that back space the same. And I also, I think this is even good for blues singers, for example. If you want a big ballsy sound, you need to keep a certain shape that maintains that sound. So I would do that. I would also, while I'm learning the notes, read the libretto or the lyrics, just to get a handle on what is this person all about? What are they singing about? What are the words? What are the difficult? Are there any kind of things that I find difficult and that I have to do some research about? Well, I'm doing an opera workshop in a week and a half. I just finished one in Amsterdam, and I did one before that. In all of those operas, I had to look up, what does solipsism mean? I don't know what that word, or crepuscular is in the opera that crepuscular.
Sing that.
What is crepuscular? So I'll make sure I understand everything. The nice thing though, when you're doing workshops, is that the first session is with the librettist, so I get to go, what is crepuscular in this opera about? So by the time I learn the notes, start adding the words, then I start looking at the dynamics and the tempo, and I start looking for, as soon as I start reading the words, I start looking for imagery. And then the imagery may change. It's open for interpretation. So by the time I perform, the voice is working well. I understand the character. I understand the emotional trajectory of the character. And I can use that as my base when I perform. And then after that, once I perform and the audience is there, something else happens, because I get bigger. When, people who are performers, you know what I mean? The audience comes and you're like, oh, I'm a big person now. Then there's another thing happens, which is this thread that we have with each audience member. It's like a invisible web, and you can feel the audience coming with you. And when that happens, that might change my imagery, or perhaps something that I thought was forte and louder, I might pull back, because the audience is giving me also their feedback in real time. And that's the magic, in my opinion.
For those listening, I think Janice, you have a lot of your performances that are the longer pieces on your YouTube channel. So you can kind of get an idea of what you're talking about, because in a lot of those performances, you have an interesting connection with the audience. I think I was watching Wolf Woman. Remember Wolf Woman?
Oh, yeah.
And in that, there's a lot of your eyes just go to the audience. It's kind of like that documentary style, like The Office, the TV shows that are documentary style. And there's kind of this like aside to I know you're there.
In theater, we talk about the fourth wall. There are even some singers that don't believe you should. I should explain what the fourth wall is. The fourth wall is an imaginary wall that you stand behind, that is between you and the audience. And actors, if they're playing a character and they're talking to another character, would never breach that wall. If you had a Greek chorus, for example, they might be directly talking to the audience, so there's no wall. I know singers who don't believe that you should ever break that wall. If I'm singing the cabaret songs of Benjamin Britten, which is, the fourth wall is gone for me, because every song is a story. And if I am standing behind that wall, it becomes too impersonal. So I think that whether you're stay behind the wall and you have visions and imagery, and you're talking to someone in your mind, or that you see as an image in the distance, that's one thing. But the walls, you can break it anytime. It depends on the piece. You've got pieces that, I think the Handmaiden's Tale. Yes, Handmaiden's Tale. Yeah.
I think that piece starts with you talking to the audience, and then as the story is told, you're within the story, and then you come back to the audience at the end.
Yes.
And then there's other pieces where it's almost like you are a living art exhibit, and you do not break the fourth wall at all, and you are just this other being completely, and we are just the observers.
Well, it's interesting, Angst. Did you see Angst ever, the piece that I did called Angst?
Yeah.
Well, I never break the fourth wall in that piece, but that was an interesting piece because it's very abstract. And when I started learning it, the composer has a lot of instructions. Look left, look right, look straight, look up. And when I first learned it, I was like, left must mean this and right means that. And I was trying to find meaning in everything. And after a couple of weeks, I went, oh, Janice, stop. Do the piece. Do the piece with everything that you have. And if you do that, you will be in your bubble or that safe space inside of me. And the audience will take away from it what they take. And it's interesting because the piece really works. It's very powerful, but there are no words. And I'm expressing it with the nonverbal part of me. It's also very interesting. I mean, this is a personal thing, but it has taken me, I'm 62. It has taken me, oh, I revealed my age. It has taken me a very long time. That thing that I trust implicitly on stage inside of myself, which knows to look right, look left, look up, go for all that. As a person, it has taken me all these years to trust that part of me on a personal level. So maybe that person over there I'd stay away from, or maybe we should part ways with this person. Or now I'm lucky enough that I trust that unspoken part of myself in all things, whether it be my personal life or my singing. But it started with my singing, which is really interesting. I trusted it implicitly.
Right.
And I mean, I've had quite a bit of therapy, and I remember speaking to my therapist once and saying, maybe I can learn to trust that part as a person, because it certainly works on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think that that's something that if someone's having a hard time finding even that voice, then outside the singing lessons, you know, artists, we could use some therapy sometimes, right? We just declutter our brain so we can actually connect. Well, in Dutch, there's an expression, the oorspronkelijk self. It means the self we were born with. A baby knows what it needs. I'm hungry. I'm happy. Now the problem is that as we grow and we're in a certain milieu in society, in school, at home, wherever, we start learning to put aside that voice. And, you know, I'm very thankful that I learned very early when I was maybe 19, 20, 21, to connect with that voice when I perform and when I learn music. And now I'm connecting with it all the time, is what I'm really saying, which is lovely.
Singing has been really important for you in that sense that it helped you find yourself.
Yes, and I would say the reason that as a person I'm as healthy as I am is because there were times when I was so emotional that affected my ability to focus on music. And so for me, getting straight in my mind and in my psyche and in my feelings and my spirit as a person was really important for me as an artist as well. So that I was as healthy as I can be. In fact, I'm happier than I've ever been, and I'm healthier as a person than I've ever been. So I'm clearer also. So, and singing showed me that.
You have had a few health challenges throughout your career, and in turn vocal challenges, and I know that you've started helping other people with rehabilitation, people who've had vocal injury and illnesses, cancers, that sort of thing. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
I've had 3 spinal surgeries, and there was a time when I was in pain every day. It lasted about 7 years, and I couldn't stand up straight. So my breathing started to become affected by that. And also just when you have chronic pain, there's always a part of the brain busy with trying not to be in pain. So that's really exhausting. But despite that, I kept singing. And it was interesting because I was singing at a festival at Acadia University. That piece that I told you about with the composer wrote with flute, could have been a flute piece. I was singing that piece and I was in agony and going to the university, and I had a cane, and just before I went on stage I put the cane down, and as soon as I walked out on stage I had no pain. and I stood up and I sang the piece, walk off stage, I'm in pain again. Adrenaline is a great drug.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've had several things. I've had that. I've had acid reflux quite badly, actually. And I started working with students. The first student I worked with had a paralyzed vocal cord. And I'd had some speech language pathology when I was suffering with acid reflux, and started working with her. It was 10 months of finding the right exercises and the right vowels and the right type of exercise. And after 10 months, the chords came back. It was the middle of the chord. So she had low notes and high notes, but nothing in the middle. So we really worked the voice to bring that back. Then I just started getting requests from people who had issues with their speaking voices. And one that I really intensely worked with, which was probably the first intense situation that I worked with the speaking voice, was a young woman who was a music teacher at school, and she was sideswiped by a snowplow in Newfoundland and had whiplash and a concussion. And the muscles of this side of the throat were really affected by that. And she came to me. I knew that I was not going to be the only person that could help her. So I put a team around her. She had a speech language person, a massage therapist. I sent her to a therapist and a physiotherapist. And I sent her to my physiotherapist, who was so invested in her that she took a special course in how to rehab the throat muscles after what we call muscle dysphonia, muscle tension dysphonia. And now she's actually, this physiotherapist is working with people with muscle tension dysphonia, which is wonderful. But we spent about a year rehabbing her voice. And then I started getting, the physio started sending me people. And I've worked with a woman that had thyroid cancer, young woman actually. And I just finished working with someone who had lymph nodes removed and part of his throat. And he has a team around him too. And he's really, the voice is really getting a lot better. And the tongue use, because he had a lot of tongue tension because of the surgery. And another man who had serious acid reflux and speech issues. And so I just keep getting randomly asked if I will rehab voices. And I find it, I actually really love it. And what I try to do is connect people to their body, because a lot of people, when the voice isn't working properly, we become obsessed by it and we lose connection to the body. And so what I try to do is bring people back into a connection with their breath, and try to find exercises in the part of the voice that needs it, that get the chords coming together really well. And also tongue, we work on tongue tension exercises to relax the tongue. And you know, if people have certain issues with a vowel or a consonant, I try to find ways to go from a healthy vowel to one that's not working as well. There's all kinds of things, you know, that you need to do in that case. I really love doing it though. And I also have students, singing students, who also have issues with their voice. So I have to work on speaking voice as well as the singing voice, because the speaking voice is the same instrument as the singing voice. So, and what I love doing is teaching with older adults. Like I have a woman, she's somewhere, I think, between 70 and 80. And she was speaking with quite a soft voice when I started working with her. And now her speaking voice is much more robust. And, you know, it's a testament to the fact that the voice is rehabable, and it doesn't matter the age. Yeah. I mean, I remember when my voice, you know, in the middle of having surgeries and my voice really suffering, my ENT said, well, guess you're going to have to sing other repertoire. And I thought, no way, I'm not doing this. So as I rehab my back from my last surgery, I went back to singing lessons. And The next time I saw him, he said, "Whoa, your chords look like a Ferrari with a couple of nicks on them." And I said, "I'll take that." Yeah, so the voice is rehabable and miraculous. And every now and then I watch, what is it? That show where people have talents and they got, America's Got Talent.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this young woman came on who was deaf,
Oh,
and she sang a song with her ukulele in tune.
amazing.
She did it by feeling, and she had a vocal coach, and the vocal coach helped her with feeling each note. And it was so beautiful and precious. And I was like, wow, that's a
Yeah,
testament to the human spirit.
absolutely.
So if you get a little inkling that you're imitating, what do you do to counteract your imitating?
First thing I do when I'm finding I'm imitating a particular take on a standard or a cover song that I'm working on, the first thing I do is I try to cleanse my palette by listening to other versions of the song,
Okay.
other instrumental versions, other vocals, other versions, and then I stop listening to it altogether, get a karaoke track or record the band playing it, and just from that point onward, I'm singing with a track or with a band and not listening because
Gotcha.
I listen and I cannot get it out of my head. So I have to practice not listening.
It's taken a long time for you to trust you, I think, right?
That's the beauty of original music. I found a lot of my own voice through original music because I have nobody to imitate. So that helps a lot. And if it is a cover song or a jazz standard, then it takes me literally years to develop my own version of that song, of singing it over and over and expanding and exploring and improvising.
I'm going to suggest something. Sing the whole thing softer. Sing the whole thing louder. Sing where you sing louder, softer, and where you sing softer, louder. Change the rhythms. Sing it fast. Sing it extremely slow. Sing it without vibrato. Sing if you change all of the parameters, that can help you get out of that thing in your head, I think. That you go into this, okay, I'm going to sing this not in a whisper, but in a really soft, slow voice. I think that would be a great way for you to counteract that. Let's go back to what Judy Garland said. I think I asked you that after a show once. I said, who would Judy Garland imitate? And you were like, nobody.
No.
Even though Bernard maybe wasn't the best teacher for me technically, he certainly was the best teacher for me acting wise. In fact, when I did this sequenza, this piece I was talking about at the beginning of our chat, I didn't even do it for him in the lesson. He heard it in my graduation recital and he just went, what the heck? Because I was just in this zone somewhere else, and that has sustained and carried me and given me energy and hope and thrill. And, if there's anything that people can take away from what I'm saying is you have it all inside you. You don't need to look out. You have it inside.
Yeah.
And if you feel that you're blocked emotionally, not only as a person, but with the singing, get some therapy. Nothing wrong with that. Work on yourself. See if you can open up that part of yourself, be courageous and find someone that can really help you to, today I feel really sad, or, we need to use all our emotion when we perform, not just a little bit, all of it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more story. I was singing in Montreal with Barbara Pritchard, a fabulous contemporary classical pianist here, and we've worked together with her on the Kurt Weill thing. And I sometimes in concerts I just wasn't happy with the way I would start a piece, or halfway through the first page of the piece I was like, didn't like that note, so I'd stop. Say, well, didn't like that, and I'd start again. And I think in that concert I must have done that 5 times, and I thought, They're going to dock points. Everybody's going to tick off points. She failed that concert. And it was fascinating because afterwards, the audience were coming into my dressing room going, "You're a musical monster." And I was like, okay, so stopping. And because for me, it's not about me, it's about the music. And I feel like I can do that better. I think I was what, 58, something like that, 56, doesn't matter. But I've sung so much that I'm like, let's just do it again.
Yeah.
In fact, one time in a concert in Toronto, I waited 2 minutes because I didn't feel like I was ready. And that goes back to Nina Simone, who's notorious for starting her concerts late. And she says, well, I'm not going on stage until I'm ready.
This conversation was full of advice. Thank you so much. I know that everybody listening is going to be like having blown their minds with information about the voice and about life and about being an individual, authentic self. It is so nice to get to chat with you. Thank you for doing this.
You can just give them www.janicejackson.ca.
I sure will.
Great to see you, Karen.
And great to have you here for this interview with vocalist Janice Isabel Jackson. You heard her. To learn more about Janice, visit www.janicejackson.ca. And to hear more, click the links in the description below to see Janice performing the pieces discussed in this episode. If you enjoyed La Voce Vita, please share it and subscribe to the Karen Myatt YouTube channel or visit karenmyatt.ca for more news and information. Follow us on social media and click the bell to be notified when we release a new episode. Finally, we want to hear from you. If you have a question, a suggestion, a request, or music to share, feel free to send us a note in the comments below or at karenmyatt.ca/message. Until next time, I'm Karen Myatt, and thanks for listening to La Voce Vita.